Welcome back to another episode of Fast Casual Nation. My name is Paul Barron and I'm your host. As you guys know, Fast Casual Nation really dives into the sector of the fast casual restaurant business, but we do it from an angle that is a bit more than just covering brands. We look at kind of some of the solutions that they're dealing with. We also look at some of the suppliers that are fulfilling in the space, and we also look at some of the strategies, and today is that kind of show. Though we do have a brand on the show, the topic for today is kind of this digital forward move that fast casual is in the midst of. And what I mean by that is with so much of sales going through both web, online, and new verticals for sales activities that are mostly digital, it's kind of changing the footprint aspect of how a fast casual restaurant is done. So with me today, I've got Shannon Krauss, who is the Director of Design and Construction at Pancheros Franchise Corporation. So great to have you on the show.
Great to be here, thank you.
Shannon, so Pancheros, when you guys started, the fresh mech space was kind of exploding. It's now probably maybe number one or number two in the category sectors for most popular. Obviously, the Titan being Chipotle, who has kind of moved into that space. I'm kind of curious, how did Pancheros kind of start its evolution and kind of its plan for going franchise and kind of how you guys do build outs, all that kind of stuff? How did all this get going?
Yeah, so Panchero started in 1992 by Rodney Anderson. He grew up in the Chicago suburbs visiting like the Chicago style taquerias and wanted to kind of expand on that concept in a fresh way. So he did the first location in Iowa City, Iowa. And then he spent about 10 years working on the brand and opened only company operated restaurants in that time. And then around 2002, he decided to expand to the franchise concept and increased his staffing for that and started working on the model for franchising. So 2002 is when that really began. 2003 is when the first franchise location opened. And we've opened several more franchise locations since then and continue to expand on the company operated locations as well.
Yeah. How many total units are you guys at currently?
We have about 70 spread across 12 states.
Interesting. Okay. Mostly centralized there in the U.S., or do you have some outer distribution as well?
We're all in the U.S. We are, of course, heavily populated in Iowa, where we began, but we also have heavy population on the East Coast, like in New Jersey, and then we go to Florida, Wisconsin, Illinois, very Midwest populated. But like I said, East Coast is popular for us too, and we continue to expand out there. So,
very cool. Let's get into kind of the topic of today, and that being, kind of how brands have dealt with this digital transformation from the consumer, and whether it's been forced or it was an evolution. I think a lot of people maybe in 2019 and 2020 looked at it as this was something that was coming, but so many brands got kind of thrusted into advancing their digital first approach. You guys actually started your digital first and digital forward strategies much earlier. Talk to me about why you did that. Obviously not knowing anything about what was coming, but why were you guys so considering, this movement towards digital when there was still just early signs of consumers adapting to this?
I think that one thing I will say that Pancheros does really well is we understand the business and we study it and we spend a great deal of time talking about it as a group and everybody kind of bringing their ideas. So you're right. In early 2019 is when we started having every Friday afternoon meetings to talk about what's happening in the world, how do we see our business changing, and how do we need to adapt to that. So like I said, every Friday we would get together, we talk about everything from how do we get the business to digital, how do we increase our loyalty, how do we roll out the app for online ordering, how does this affect our footprint in the restaurant as far as the equipment, how do we transition our existing restaurants to be able to support this type of business, how do we go forward with new restaurants to support this business. So it's a lot of studying what's going on in the world, what's going on in the restaurant industry. It's a lot of teamwork and meetings and talks about it. But I think our early work in 2019 made us a little bit more prepared for what did happen in 2020 than what maybe
Yeah.
some other concepts were.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of people now, they talk about their tech stack currently, and now it's pretty much a necessity to a restaurant industry operation, is that you've got to have a pretty mature and I'll say effective tech stack. You can't really go with products or services that have been unproven, but we're seeing more and more companies that are really advancing their technology in terms of development. In 2019, when you started looking at your tech stack, and I don't want to get into the IT side of this, but obviously you, from an operations standpoint and a design and development standpoint of the stores, you had to understand how orders were getting in. Were you seeing a shift toward mobile? And with that being the case, obviously you're going to need pickup points. Are you guys a queue, or are you a order and deliver? How's your model?
We are a queue.
Okay.
So yes, it definitely did affect us, and it's probably the one
Yeah.
thing that we're still studying the most.
Yeah. So technology moving into the space of mobile ordering, e-commerce ordering, curbside. Now we have queue line pickups. All these aspects. What kind of changes did you make internally from a physical standpoint inside the stores themselves to adopt to this?
Yeah. The easiest one that we made really early on, which is adding a second printer. So when orders did come in, they printed at a location that was separate from our in-restaurant transactions. So that was done, like I said, really early on. And then as far as like the design and equipment, we started to add full second cook lines to our restaurants to
Oh, okay.
support
All right.
these orders. I guess I shouldn't say full. They're completely separate, but they're a little bit smaller footprint than our main line. So we've done a few remodels now at the company level and one at the franchise level where we've implemented these. And then we have a plan to do several more this year, and I'm sure it will continue from there. So it's been a great deal of work. And then in 2020, even as the world was shut down.
Yeah. From a consumer standpoint, someone that's placing an order, I know with Chipotle, they've kind of put the bookshelves, I call them, out there in front. Now I've seen some Chipotles that have as many as 3 of these shelving systems for pickups. And I just picked up Chipotle the other day, and I was surprised at the number of to-go orders that were on. It was literally just almost completely full. So have you done anything like that in terms of food, exchange and delivery processes for consumers there to pick up their food?
We just did one. We did a remodel in November at a location that we have kind of the bookshelf style where you can walk up and pick up your own bag. In the early months, we had a lot of discussions about whether we thought that was the right way to go, because we're worried about people picking up the wrong bag or touching other people's bags. Obviously, with COVID going on, that was a concern. But we just did our first one, and we just started operating that second line a couple weeks ago. So they're initially testing that to see if it's what we want to roll forward with as a standard for all remodels and new stores going in the future.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious when you look at, and this is a conversation I have with a lot of operators right now that are doing queue model systems. And maybe for some of you new, simply what I mean by queue is you go into a line. It's like a Chipotle. Today, those are social distance lines, so it stretches and lengthens that queue. So the throughput is a little bit more complicated. Do you see queue systems moving away, or do you think that eventually these will come back into operations on a day in, day out basis?
I personally think that they will come back in. I think that we've been able to adapt to the social distancing. So even if we do go back to a world that was similar to pre-COVID, where COVID isn't as much of a concern, I think that we are still able to adapt and make people feel safe and to be able to come into the restaurant and queue and get their food. I think it will be less of the business than it was in the past, but I still think it will be there and will be a large part of our business.
Yeah. What kind of, so if you can reveal this, are you guys, from a sales mix standpoint, I mean, we've seen stores now and concepts that have moved from what was 15 to 18% takeout and online ordering upwards of 50 to 55%. This is getting into QSR numbers. In terms of a QSR, mostly deals with the drive-through, which is typically takeout in just a faster method. Are you guys seeing those kind of growth numbers?
We are. It is somewhat location dependent, but for the most part, we are seeing numbers that are very similar to that. Yes.
Interesting.
Really,
Okay.
it's really changed the way we've had to function.
Is this something that you and your team, from a corporate standpoint, because obviously this changes the dynamic of how you guys do unit economics, obviously real estate requirements, even in some cases, FF&E, furnitures, fixtures, and equipment requirements, because you may not need as big a dining room, you may not need some of the things that you normally would have in there from a structural standpoint. Have you started the prototype redesign for dealing with a business that is 40+% digital?
We have, and we actually will be starting construction on that location this month. So we'll be planning to open the first one in the spring of this year, probably May-ish. So we still
Where
feel
will
like
that be?
It'll be in Moline, Illinois. So very close to our headquarters, a place that we can get to, within an hour drive. So that we can really be there and focus and see how it works and see how we need to tweak it going forward.
I think this is going to be a very interesting development in fast casual as we start to see new, footprints and design prototypes come to market. I've talked to several operators that are in fast growth mode right now that have, they're a little hesitant to make the leap, but after third quarter of 2020, most everyone that I've talked to has kind of said, yeah, this is here to stay. We're going to see this, so we can go ahead and invest in real estate and deal with this kind of approach. From a marketing standpoint, obviously you get a chance to deal with all your different team members there. Marketing is now a big part of this because you have to kind of redesign your marketing structure to deal with your new store footprint that you're dealing with, and obviously franchisees have to deal with a completely different operation. Has marketing also changed for you guys in terms of your strategy?
It has, yes. They relaunched an online ordering option during this time. Of course, we have the app. They've really been pushing our loyalty program, which allows them to target our customers with promotions during this time. They've done a lot of promotions for free delivery to really get the word out there that we are offering delivery. So they've worked extra hard this year in making sure that we're, letting our customers know how we're adapting to the changes too.
Yeah. How do you see, because I think franchisees are, they're always trying to cut costs, and typically it's going to be in labor because that's the one controllable that they can kind of deal with versus, the actual food costs and real estate costs. When you look at this new evolution of what a brand like Pancheros could do from a 50% digital sales standpoint, obviously that changes the footprint and the required staff to manage that footprint. Are you seeing any kind of implementations at the franchisee level that are kind of saying, hey, we've got to kind of create new strategies now of how to staff our stores and deal with kind of this new approach towards sales?
We are. It's something that we discuss a lot. We have been really focused on making sure that our second cook line and like the pickup opportunities for our guests are within view of our main cook line, so that we can share staff as much as possible, and rather than having a staff at the main line and a staff at the second line. So that's been, like I said, a huge consideration. It's somewhat hard to do when you're working with existing restaurants, but with the new ones, we're having to really hone in even more on what we need for square footage, where we're placing windows and doors, and everything that it takes to design a restaurant the most efficient way possible.
Yeah, I've seen some pretty amazing designs, in kind of more renderings of concepts where you have, these whole new areas for pickup and takeout. You've got new outdoor seating structures that are created now. Patios become very, very popular in obviously in climates that kind of are conducive to that. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see this revolution of restaurant design, I think, that's going to be happening in the next few years. A few questions here, and one is talking about virtual brands and ghost kitchens. What are you guys seeing in this space? We hear more and more concepts that are starting to, test the waters in ghost kitchens. Where do you guys land in that particular strategy?
I think it's something that you will see from Pancheros in the future. It's actually something that we were talking about probably about a year to year and a half before COVID hit. We were kind of in negotiations to do our first one in the Chicago area, which we didn't move forward with at the time, but I do believe it's something that we will see. And as we fine tune what equipment we really need and the small footprint that we really need to service our guests, we'll be able to do it easier.
Yeah, absolutely. Expansion plans for you guys. What are you thinking in the next 5 years? Are you guys at 100 units? What kind of growth are you guys pushing for?
Yes, I think that would be the exact goal, is 100 units within the next 5 years. And I do think that we can get there. We have a lot of franchisees that are looking right now, a lot of franchisees that are excited about this new pickup window opportunity that's kind of come out of this year. But yeah, I think we'll get there.
Very cool. Interesting. Hey, listen, Shannon, it's been great talking to you. Thank you so much for stopping in on the episode today. Good luck to you and Pancheros. I think you guys are definitely on the right track for sure.
I think we are too. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you guys listening in or tuning in over on our podcast apps, make sure and give us a like or a rating. That's one way we get your feedback. And of course, if you have an idea for a show title or a show topic, or maybe a guest that you think would be perfect for Fast Casual Nation, we do look at brands primarily. That's usually our typical MO in terms of our strategy here for our editorial content. But from time to time, we also look at solutions and experts that know a lot about a particular area. So feel free to shoot us an email to producer@foodabletv.com. You can always hit me up on Twitter @PaulBaron. Thanks for listening in or tuning in right here on Fast Casual Nation. We'll catch you next time.